Pope Leo warning that artificial intelligence could threaten jobs, human dignity, and accountability without stronger safeguards. And joining us now, Arthur Brooks, Harvard professor, columnist for the Free Press, Catholic boy.
Yeah.
So I had 8 years of nuns, 4 years of Jesuits. My uncle was a priest, unbelievable man, great man. Kind of an Episcopalian Catholic now. I don't know. I kind of, that's kinder, gentler Catholic. It's not, Catholic light. It's not hardcore. There's times I've been disappointed with the Catholic Church and the popes. Not JP2. Climate change, it's like the guy from Argentina was a communist, basically. They've had some major problems that I've had major problems with. You know what I'm talking about.
Of course, the Catholic Church
relocating pedophiles to different dioceses.
It's a huge problem.
Is this fixed?
Right.
You worrying about AI? Is it? You got all your P's and Q's are together on the other stuff?
Yeah. Well, to begin with, Pope Leo took his name. Pope Leo XIV took his name after Pope Leo XIII, who at the end of the 19th century was the Pope during the Industrial Revolution. And he wrote a very famous encyclical called Rerum Novarum in 1891 to help the Catholic laity understand, the dynamics of what was going on. The laity.
And that's Latin.
Yeah, lay people to understand what is the Catholic Church's position on capital and labor and wages and migration and radical philosophy. And one of the things that Pope Leo XIII talked about was the dangers of communism, about what a bad ideology this was actually going to be and how much danger it actually brought to the world, which in point of fact it did. It killed more people than wars in the 20th century, of course. So Pope Leo took his name from that, understanding there's a post-industrial revolution we have to grapple with. And the Catholic Church has to have something to say about it. And so this is what this encyclical is about.
Was that intentional from the drift of the Church from the previous Pope? Would you say?
I mean, popes, they're men. I mean, the idea that they speak what the Church...
They have to say they're speaking with infallibility.
But they don't. They haven't spoken with... They speak with infallibility a couple of times a century at the most.
Right.
So the truth is they're speaking according to their prudential judgment, and they might be wrong, and we might disagree with them, and that's okay.
Well, I think this is probably useful to that AI, I could see, as far as human dignity goes and as far as job goes, I can see that this is something more relevant for him to weigh in on, perhaps,
for sure.
Than some of the other stuff.
But the original piece that you were describing was about the dignity of work, which to me is the straight line, through line.
That's his whole...
Exactly right. Exactly. That's why he wrote this encyclical.
And that's dignity of work now. In the book that I paid Andrew to read, that was the whole premise of your book, the dignity of work.
Exactly right.
Someone who makes X amount of dollars versus someone who makes 10 times that, it doesn't guarantee happiness. It's about the dignity of work. And
that's right. And, this is one of the reasons that graduation speakers who are getting up this year and saying, I study graduation speeches. My column this week in the Free Press is about graduation speeches. And when graduation speakers are getting up and saying, get with AI, you're going to be left behind, they're getting booed. Now, there's a reason for that. Graduation speakers are supposed to get up and talk about the dignity of the graduates and the fact that they're the future of the country. And when they get up and they say, you're not the future of the country, AI is, so get with it or get left behind, that's an incredibly disheartening thing to say. What the Pope is talking about is very interesting in his message. I wrote the English foreword to the English translation that's being published, so I got to see an advanced copy of it. His whole point is AI is going to ruin us if it doesn't make us more human. Now, that sounds like crazy. I mean, it's every science fiction story ever is where the machines make us less human. But he's saying that in our hands, we can make the technology make us more human, and he's right. The trouble is, it's hard to figure out. Now, forget the policymakers and the technologists, all of us. How are we going to use AI in such a way that it makes us more human, not less human? And that's the big takeaway.
Look, it's tricky. The Wall Street Journal has a story today about how when you use the memory function on these chatbots, it can actually be problematic. If you tell it at some point you're stressed about something or you're anxious, it may then, from then on, think you are anxious about everything.
That's right.
It remembers an old version of yourself. It doesn't update you or change as you change.
That's exactly. I read that article, too. It's very interesting. And that's an example of how it makes us less human, because we're outsourcing our human relationships as something that's not human. That, by this property of our relationship to it, makes us less human. And that's the important thing that the Pope is trying to point out.
And there was something last week about how oftentimes these chat bots will try and placate you. They will tell you that you're right in a situation.
Right.
I think you've had that experience where you go through the chat bots.
Well, they're correct usually, because
I
mostly am right.
But that makes all of us a little less likely to see the other person's point of view. It makes all of us who are using it less likely to think that maybe we should compromise.
How can we even
person halfway?
But how can we even conjecture when we don't know what AI is eventually going to be?
Yeah. So the way to think about this, there's actually a new body of neuroscience that helps us understand how AI can make us more human. Now, this is not in the papal encyclical. He's not a neuroscientist, but it's interesting to understand that the left side of your brain does analytical tasks. The right side is based on mystery and meaning and relationships.
That's sort of simplistic.
No, but except that the truth of the matter is that the hemispheric lateralization is the new frontier of neuroscience. And what we understand about AI is when you let it do the analytical stuff, freeing you up to go love people in person, because happiness is love. That's what it comes down to, and it has to be in real life. Then it can make you more human. But if you're using it for the girlfriend experience or for your buddy or, God forbid, for your therapist, then you're outsourcing human relationships to AI, and you will become the machine.
I think when you say left and right, you're talking about not necessarily just spatially, but those are overall terms for how you're viewing thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
because it's not specifically that simple.
The brain is more complex than that. But what we find is there's more activity in the right side when you're loving people, when you're understanding mystery, when you're worshiping, and there's more activity in the left side of your brain when you're figuring out analytical problems and doing engineering stuff.
You're talking about the cerebral cortex.
Yeah.
Things happening in the cerebral cortex. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking, just in general about the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex of the brain.
But can I ask a slightly different question, which is, and maybe it gets to actually what you do for a living, which is when you read what the Pope has written, he talks, it's about capitalism. And by the way, there's been these debates inside the church about capitalism forever, the profit motive and everything else.
Right.
The question is, it's not just a warning. The real question is, what are we supposed to do if in fact you think we are going to take away human agency?
Yeah. What is each individual supposed to do, or is it a policymaker supposed to do?
Both.
Yeah. So he talks more about policymakers, and policymakers are supposed to be more for the common good, and this is the kind of pronouncement that popes are supposed to make. I'm more interested personally in what I'm personally supposed to do. I'm supposed to tend to my knitting, which is love relationships. That's what it comes down to pay attention to the parts of my life that matter the most. My faith, my family, my friendships, and making sure that my work is dedicated to serving other people. Those are the four things that the data are perfectly clear lead to the greatest amount of happiness.
If you could do your job in 3 days a week instead of 5 or 6, or knowing you 7 days a week, would that make you happier and a better person because you'd be able to do the other 3 things you just talked about? Or would it take away some sense of dignity to the extent that dignity of work is a thing?
I think it's very dangerous to actually cut it down. So, and the technologists who say, don't worry about AI, it's going to do everything, we'll put you on a UBI, a universal basic income, and all will be well, and you'll be able to go, go surfing or something. That will strip us of human dignity because we're made to be generative people, which is one of the points of the Pope.
Interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the other piece that was fascinating to me. On Friday, David Solomon of Goldman Sachs put out a op-ed in the New York Times about how he thinks the AI apocalypse is overdone.
Right.
There was also some news late in the week about Microsoft finding that actually the cost of using AI in certain cases is more expensive than actually employing humans to do the work.
Right.
If any of that is true, we might not need this encyclical.
We might not need it. Look, the reason that we're going to need it is because we're always going to have increasing technology that's going to give us an opportunity to distract ourselves from the things that matter the most. Look, if anything is substituting for human relationships, it's a problem in your life. If it complements your human relationships, it's better. If you're not paying attention to your kids because you're looking at your phone is making you a lot worse off, and that's what it comes down to, whether it's an algorithm or a device or a screen.
So should there have been an encyclical for the iPhone? Should there have been an encyclical for television?
I think basically what he talks about is not just AI. The Pope is talking about all of these new technologies and how they're making us a little bit less human. And the focus of the Pope is always on these big institutions. But for us, the focus has to be on what's going on inside the four walls of our house and inside our heads. That's what it comes down to.
I mean, the Church and the Pope have certain default beliefs that maybe aren't always suitable for the current situation. I think this Pope in World War II would have been a pacifist. And look what happened because of, Chamberlain or whatever you want to look at how we didn't really nip that in the bud quite early enough, did we, in World War II?
Yeah,
and I see that I saw a lot of criticism about the United States and Iran. I didn't see any criticism about all the human rights and the people that were dead and the executions and the snipers. So it's like this default. It's not in the real world.
Well, the Pope has had a lot to say about the predations of the Iranian regime. It just doesn't get the same attention.
So you're a nice Catholic. You're defending.
No, I mean, look. I mean, the truth is that nobody's perfect, and I'm critical when I need to be critical. But
you should be critical of the Catholic Church for the last 50 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I would recommend that when the trust that families have in the pastor of the local church and the way.
No, I got it. But the truth is that the Pope did have a lot to say about the problems with the Iranian regime and the way that it was treating its population. It just didn't get the same attention because it doesn't, and particularly in the American media.
Okay. He has explicitly condemned the Iranian government.
Oh, I would hope so.
Yeah.
That's a big step. Big step.
And more is better. Absolutely. More talking about and good. I mean, once again, let's go back to Pope Leo XIII, who said that communism is a major threat and it's an aberration of natural law. And sure enough. And so at very least, we should be taking very seriously the warnings that the Holy Father has to say about this today, is my view.
My question is, how many people, communism responsible for how many deaths in the 20th century?
We don't know.
Million
somewhere between 50 and 100 million?
And then, is there dots you can connect between socialism and communism? I believe there are. So,
yeah,
I'll put some of those deaths on socialism, and here we are.
We still have parasitic regimes around the world that are still killing people under this completely anachronistic, terrible thing. By the way, Pope Leo XIII talked about the fact that we have a parasitic form of capitalism that's cronyism that we still suffer from today as well, notwithstanding the fact that the free enterprise system has pulled most of the world out of poverty in our lifetimes.
Right.